Hi everyone, welcome to this week's video. Like last week, I'm going to be reading my latest blog post. I'm really enjoying writing my blog, and for now that's the content I have to offer. So, for those of you that love to read, please visit www.sherpabearcoaching.com/blog. And for those of you that love to listen to the spoken word, you can watch this week's video or listen to it. Okay, so sit back, relax, and listen to my thoughts entitled Continually Courting Freedom Beyond Our Boundaries. In my last blog, which was my first ever blog, I talked about the waiting game we can play with motivation and with anxiety. Some of us can wait for the high tide of motivation to wash action into our bodies and our minds, but its time of arrival is unknown, and so we stay still and life's timeline strides forward without us. We can hope that anxiety is dragged away with the ebbing tide to finally expose the beach we crave to stand on, and so we wait, and we wait on this unlikely event whilst hope dwindles inside. To move into action or to sit still is a choice which forms part of our own individual journey, and we are extremely lucky to have a ticket to ride on what is a timeline full of constant possibilities. But these can be hidden behind obstacles we can and cannot see, which limit our ability to act and the choices we have to make. Sometimes ignorance can be blissful, but when we are experiencing life in a way that does not sit well with us, it can feel small and limited. Life can remain that way as we look for answers in a world where we can find nothing fresh to present as evidence that anything else is possible. It's just the way I am. I have never had motivation. I have always been an anxious person. Both these quotes, taken directly from clients of mine, are laced with belief and supported by very real feelings, which, as I said in my last blog post, are not to be made light of, but they can be investigated. Empathy forms part of my coaching language, as does the acknowledgement of feelings and emotions experienced by my clients. Sometimes we don't want to feel certain things that we are not used to or comfortable with, but they may be the gatekeepers of and to your freedom. The arrival of such feelings and emotions can be like the act of submersing oneself into very cold water. Have you ever done that? Swimming in the sea in winter was something I started doing with a friend called Rob, but on my first try, I lasted 20 seconds. The pain on my skin was a bombardment of signals telling me to retreat to where I knew I was safe, back on the beach, just to be a spectator to Rob existing in a place I could not. My mind and body were listening to the limitations I thought applied to me as I stood wearing just shorts in the cold winter wind. At this time, my world had become something I was not happy with. I was lonely, depressed, and was slowly recovering from a long period of back issues, which resulted in taking months off work. I felt fragile and was constantly second-guessing every decision I made. I could have turned to my pile of clothes, changed and played it safe, but I was stood on a line where Rob's world and my world overlapped. Looking out at him in the icy water held my attention and made me question my reality and my feelings. His smiling face bobbing in the waves told me my limitations could be different to what I had thought, and this scene was new evidence to contradict the rules of my own perspective and what was possible. I already had a taste of what this world was like, and I had survived, despite it being a difficult place to be, and I could not ignore the joy and fun Rob was having. I decided to face the pain once more and considered it part of the propaganda my skin was screaming at me in the hope I would turn tail back to the beach once again. I made a choice to acknowledge the indisputable sensations, but move through them, or rather have them move through me, whilst focusing on exhaling fully and walking steadily into the briny chiller. I knew to expect pain, and based on the evidence presented by Rob, I began to believe it was possible to let the sting of the sea splash onto me as the waters rose to cover my shoulders. He encouraged me out to where he swam, and soon I was able to talk to him and my feelings began to change. I think that is a really important point to make. Feelings do change. The pain you're feeling is just a feeling, Rob. It's not harming you, it's just a feeling. Wise words coming from the grinning, chiller swimmer. We discussed the observation and it became my truth too. These were just feelings. The clamping coldness was in fact just a feeling. And I was okay, despite part of me wanting to heed to the various alarms ringing in my mind and body. I began to have fun and swam to touch the sandy seafloor a number of times. After 15 minutes, my boundary line had been dragged outwards and my world had grown, and we left the water energised and full of chattering ideas, the bounty of heading into this new world that I had feared. We did some exercises on the beach as the winter wind whipped the sand into our shins, and confused walkers dressed ready for the Arctic looked on in puzzlement. My back felt more mobile, my mood had lifted, and I felt optimistic. It took just 20 minutes to shift my own perspective, one which I had been in for months and months. I met with Rob to swim the sea on a weekly basis for a year, and we had some wonderful conversations whilst our teeth chattered and our skin turned bright red. I did in fact record 2 of our post-swim conversations, which you can watch and listen to at the coaching channel on YouTube. They gave some evidence of the shift within me, the once fragile and depressed individual who was stuck on the beach. Feelings and emotions are there to be acknowledged, understood, owned, and used to live a full life, even if they are difficult to hold. It's okay to be sad, anxious, happy, loving, worried, scared, inquisitive, lonely, courageous, shocked. The list goes on. We are designed to feel, but you are not your feelings, and they are here to serve you and not the other way around. Rob was a reference point of possibilities for me, and I'll be thanking him once again for the shift he enabled me to create. He was, in fact, a coach to me on the beach that day because he did not heed to my fears, anxieties, or limiting beliefs. He let me feel what was going on, but showed me evidence that something else was possible. Consider the following questions. Are you, perhaps, stuck in a perspective? One which feels very real and whole. If your perspective was a radio station of propaganda, what would it broadcast to you today? As you move to the edge of what you think is possible, what does that feel like? Is it a truth? It's part of my job to help people hear, see, feel, understand, question and be aware of what they cannot while standing in a perspective that may not serve the life they want to create. As we work together, they start to stand back from their current perspective and see it in vivid 3D Technicolor with surround sound. My clients come to know where perceived boundaries lie, acknowledge the gatekeepers stood on that line, and move past them regardless of what they whisper or shout. Like them, your lifelong journey is an evidence-based gathering exercise, with multiple chances to take voyages into what you do not know, where the bow of your ship smashes against waves of emotion and feelings, which are part and parcel of experience. We can let those waves push us backwards to our well-known harbour, so life remains safe and small, or we can crest over and through them towards the place of their origin, a world we have yet to explore. Thanks for listening.